A shocking crime has rocked Bengaluru, where the former Karnataka Director General of Police Om Prakash was found brutally stabbed to death in his residence. Police have named his wife Pallavi, who has been arrested, with sources saying that she's confessed, citing a heated property dispute as the motive. But at this stage, there are more questions than answers. We're joined by Sanjay Sahai, former Additional Director General of Police Karnataka, and Aarti Rajratnam. Mr. Sahai, you would have known the late Director General of Police. Your thoughts on Om Prakash being allegedly murdered in this manner. What are your first thoughts?
This is an extremely complex case in the manner that it has grown over the years. And Pallavi, wife of the late DGP, so she has some mental issues also. She was suffering from schizophrenia, and there have been reports of she meeting psychologists and hospitals of that nature. See, what is very, very critical and what is very important, that it has happened at his home and by his own wife. And in this whole process, what the facts which come to light is that it was a premeditated thing, and she even waited for around 15-20 minutes for the ex-DGP to die before informing other people. And then after after his death, she also talked to one of her known persons and saying that I finished a monster. So this is the nature of venom. There was property dispute which has also come to light. So I think complex web of variety of thought processes, motives, and might be a mental state which finally aggravated to this sort of a situation. She's also been talking about that he was brandishing a weapon, but no weapon has been recovered so far. So it is extremely shattering experience for all of us. The nature of this crime, which I don't think it has ever happened in the history of Indian bureaucracy, something very unheard of, something unimaginable, which has happened. The investigation is on, and the granular details will come out. Notwithstanding, as the investigation goes on, nitty-gritty will keep coming out. But one thing is established, that he has been killed by his wife and the role of his daughter, Kriti. So that is also being looked into.
Probed, yeah. Aarti Rajratnam, as a psychologist and author, how would you look at this case? Because there are some reports that the alleged murderer, his wife, was sending messages on WhatsApp groups expressing her concern about her husband, suggesting that he was a danger upon her, etc., etc. Some of the messages which I went through appear disjointed, not lucid, but that's just what I felt. How do you look at this this particular case?
See, it's a very complex case again, because, many of these things are just not established. Like, there is no proof whether her mental state was not okay. We're just saying that she's been to the hospital, she's been on treatment and things like that. And again, in terms of whether the thoughts were lucid or not, whether somebody had schizophrenia or not, you need to also understand that in chronic cases of abuse also, that lucidity is not something that you will see. So when we work with clients, we normally do what is called the mental status examination to see they connect with reality, they connect with time, things like that. So without any of that data, for me to comment on her mental state or why she committed some crime like this is something that I may not be able to give you a clear picture about. Yeah. But having said that, I'll need to also, right now, this is something that cannot be tried just like that on the media. But I'd like to also mention that if this is a chronic case of emotional abuse as well, where she is a victim, then we'll need to also look at those areas. Because, see, this is a very powerful person that has been murdered, right? So also within the police force, we need to also ascertain if the investigation will be fair. Because this is a person of power, he's probably known a lot of people within the department and things like that. And when someone like this is being victimized, if it's a mental health issue, then she needs more support and treatment than a criminal punishment. Let me make that very clear. Yeah. Secondly, if it's premeditated, then we'll need to see what other kind of issues could have contributed to something so violent. Because people don't just live together for so many years and then, do this to another person. Right. So considering all these factors, from the mental health point of view, I would only say that she should have a fair trial, whatever it is, whether it is a mental health issue needing treatment or if it is a premeditated issue requiring some kind of support for her to sort of recover from whatever has caused this violence is something that I would probably stand for.
Mr. Sahid, this is a tricky case in that regard. If there are mental health issues and there is preliminary evidence to suggest that there is, then how, from a legal standpoint, are investigations conducted, and potentially how is the punishment meted out according to different standards?
No, see, first and foremost, whether insanity defense can be provoked or not, or can it be brought to light as far as we going to the court is concerned, and that particular part will be decided only in a court of law through a very well established procedure, which was 328 section CRPC. Now, what is the current section in BNS? There will certainly be a corresponding section. So what we are talking about currently is something what is known as legal insanity. Because until legal insanity comes into the picture, all the things which our panelist, the psychologist, is talking about, those don't come into play. What she is telling is 100% correct, that what we have been talking about is primarily symptomatic in nature, and also at the best symptomatic in nature, and the worst, in a worst scenario, that there is absolutely nothing. So until unless all the medical records come into play from a very legal standpoint, and with that it is taken to a court of law and through the established process of CRPC currently, whichever is the new procedural law, till that particular point in time, we will not be able to give any valid finding or a value judgment on that. What is also important, that at that particular point in time, if I understand a bit of clinical psychology with a synthesis of law, is at that particular point in time, that state of mind should be there. Is not that if it has happened, say 5 years earlier or currently after the incident has happened. Why we are talking of things premeditated is primarily because of the fact that he has shifted out of his house and he was staying with his sister and his daughter by name Kriti. So she has gone 2 days back and brought, and this is as per the FIR content. So that provides the premediation part, and even before all these things came to light, I was talking about primarily two things: that he would have been brought to the house in whichever manner, and secondly, with the nature of physique which he had. So it would be very difficult for one person to take control of him and get into that nature of stab injury.
So there could be more than one person involved?
No. What I'm saying is that if there is one or more, it can be either of the two. He had been immobilized. So that is where this chili powder comes into play. And after immobilization, only then there's a number of stab injuries which has happened, and some oil and variety of other things.
Okay, sir, hold on for 1 second, Mr. Sahai. I'm running out of time. Aarti, last word to you. How important are fair assessments of the mental health of the alleged murderers or the perpetrators of this act? How is it done? What would psychologists be looking out for?
In this particular case, a proper trained clinical psychologist will be required. They will do the complete analysis, including a mental status examination. There are clinical tests to ascertain whether this was done under we don't use the word psychosis anymore, but then was this where the person did not have a connect with reality? In which case that has to be established as well. There are very specific clinical tests, and I hope that a good senior person is brought into this, because it's not just the forensic part that needs to be looked at, because there is mental instability that has been quoted. And like Sir mentioned while he was speaking, it's not something that happened 5 years back that can be quoted now. But if it's schizophrenia, it's a cyclical disorder, and it is a condition that needs to be in control through medication. And so we don't know the history of whether she's been under medication, she's discontinued it, and things like that. So there has to be a proper analysis of the medical charts as well to see if her symptoms were under control, and if not, what she was going through right now.
Sure.
So the assessment will be done. We will do also a differential diagnosis in many cases. And based on that, a proper thorough report will be submitted to the courts.
All right. Thank you both very much for looking at this, from a legal standpoint, from a psychological standpoint. It is complicated. I think we're all very clear about this.